Welcome to VidZet, your home for careful consideration of public issues affecting our daily lives. I'm Dr. Ted Noel. This week brought us another horrific shooting. 26 people were murdered. The shooter is also dead, relieving us of the cost of keeping him in prison. He used an AR-15 to commit this heinous crime, and an NRA rifle instructor with another AR-15 brought his rampage to an end. Guess what? It wasn't the gun. It was the man. A good guy with a gun took down a bad guy with a gun. As one wag has noted, the first rule of a gunfight is, have a gun. The shooter was a very troubled man. We don't know all the details, but it's clear that while he was in the Air Force, he escaped from a mental institution and attempted to smuggle guns that would allow him to kill his superiors. He attacked his wife and his young child. For these vicious acts, he was convicted and served a year in the brig before being drummed out of the service. This isn't necessarily a lot different from a civilian penalty, which in my state can be as short as 6 months or as long as 5 years. But there's a catch. Any crime resulting in a jail term of a year or more is a felony. Felonies must be reported to the FBI, and they permanently prohibit you from owning a firearm unless specific actions are taken to have your civil rights restored. His mental health history should also have disqualified him from owning a gun. And that brings us to the Democrats screaming. No, I'm not referring to that silly screaming at the sky stunt they pulled a few days ago. I'm talking about the predictable call for common sense gun regulations. Those always start with universal background checks. Supposedly, those background checks would keep a bad guy from getting a gun. But it also seems that the background check didn't work very well here. The Texas shooter was supposed to be blocked, but he was able to buy a gun every year for 4 years over the counter with his name entered each time into the FBI instant check system. Something wasn't working. When the shooter was convicted of felony assault, it was the Air Force's responsibility to inform the FBI. Ditto for his mental health issues. But they didn't do their jobs. We have to ask why. It was a simple piece of paperwork, but it didn't get done. It's possible some clerk lost the paperwork. It happens. But we have to look at a more sinister possibility. Our immediate past president is a swamp creature. His sole public purpose is to concentrate power in the federal government. Protecting the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic, wasn't on his radar, even though he swore to do it. He lied. When we consider this situation, things get much worse. With regard to military justice, we have to ask if his attitude toward law enforcement has infected the ranks. Let's recall that the moment that Officer Wilson pulled the trigger in Ferguson, Sheriff Obama decided that the Ferguson PD was racist. The truth didn't matter. In his backyard, the Baltimore riots didn't result in a single statement supporting real law and order. And San Francisco wasn't threatened with any corrective action when they protected the illegal alien who murdered Kate Steinle. Let's recall what the Constitution says. Remember this little book? The federal government has absolute supremacy in matters pertaining to immigration. The Congress has written rules on them, and no lower authority has any legal right to challenge them. Yet several courts have tried to reverse executive orders on immigration that were clearly within the president's authority. This is blatant disregard for the law. Should we be surprised if others have taken the same hint? We know that the IRS has illegally targeted conservative groups. We know that Obama's Department of Justice violated many laws to send guns to Mexican drug cartels through the Fast and Furious program. There don't seem to have been any direct orders from the president to do these illegal things, but that's not really necessary. If you have a flunky who's in tune with your illegal intentions, all that's needed is a hint from above, and the deed gets done. On law enforcement, the president is the sheriff. And if we have a scofflaw sheriff who has made it very clear that he doesn't want the laws followed, the flunkies take the hint. It doesn't matter that he is sworn to faithfully execute the laws, but he avoids the ones he wants. And if he has enough loyalists in the Senate, there's nothing anyone can do about it. Impeachment, the only remedy, takes 67 votes. Obama only needed 34 votes to block impeachment. Since he had more than that, no one even tried. Sanctuary cities refuse to cooperate with the federal government when they have an illegal alien criminal in custody. They even claim in court that the feds can't take away federal grants if they don't go along. But what happens when the sheriff of D.C. simply goes along with their illegal stance? Nothing happens. They get away with it. Count on it. The Air Force JAG office is no different from all of the other legal bodies in sanctuary cities. It has people with their finger in the air. They can tell from which way the wind is blowing that nothing will happen to them if they are derelict in their duties. So why bother? It's a piece of paperwork nobody's going to miss. Sheriff Obama doesn't care, so why should I? Knowing what we know now, the result was fully predictable, even if the details weren't. Somewhere, somehow, people were going to die. From Obama's view, he got lucky. Instead of the Texas shooter killing just his ex and child, he nailed 26 churchgoers. People who bitterly cling to their Bibles assumed room temperature. This tragedy is big enough to really push for gun control. And the bad guy used an assault weapon. We can work on banning those. Our wish list looks good. And we can blame the NRA claiming they want people dead. But then reality strikes. While the bad guy used an AR-15, so did the good guy. And the good guy isn't just an NRA member. He's an NRA instructor. Then it really gets bad. This NRA instructor was in such a hurry to answer the need that he ran barefoot to the church to engage the shooter. He instantly put his life on the line to save lives. But he didn't even think about that. All he saw was the need to defend others. The NRA wants people dead meme that we saw all over Twitter is a total lie. But don't count on the left admitting it. Sheriff Obama presided over a swamp full of rot, some of which has certainly infected the Air Force JAG office. But was this the reason the report was not properly transmitted to the FBI? We don't know yet. And that brings us to the final point. Many people get their only exercise by jumping to conclusions. An early meme on right-wing sites was that the shooter was Antifa. Now we know that's not true. The meme on the left was that the NRA wants people dead. That wasn't true either. We can't let these instant assessments rule the day. When we say you shouldn't politicize an event, we are saying that rational thought is important. You can't just react emotionally. The left was predictable in pushing new gun laws, but we know that the gun laws they want would have taken the AR-15 out of the hands of the civilian who put his own life on the line to save lives. The right-wing meme wasn't so vicious, but it was still wrong. On the other hand, when the New York truck killer shouted Allahu Akbar and claimed Islam as his motive, then we know why he did it. This gives us a fact to act on. Instapundit reactions are irresponsible. That's why it took VidZet a full day to put together an analysis of Hillary Clinton's Parkinson freeze last September 11. And it's why we should all be careful about jumping to conclusions. That should not be our only form of exercise. Please remember to support VidZet on Patreon, like VidZet on Facebook, and follow VidZet on Twitter. I'm Dr. Ted Noel. Thanks for watching.